Ludovic Colin, in 2021, markets are hoping for a smooth recovery on the back of the vaccination programs in many countries. What risks do you assess in this scenario?
Oh, well, the main risk for me is that expectations for 2021 are very high, as you said, and most of the asset class, equities, credit, are already in very high valuation. So the main risk is because valuation, as in the beginning of 2020, is already high, we could see a high risk as well of disappointment for 2021. The first one that comes to mind, and the main risk, is how the vaccine is going to be deployed, and is the vaccine going to be efficient? If it takes too much of a time for the population to be vaccinated, then the rebound of the economy, that recovery, is delayed, and that will probably create some tensions and risks in the market.
Where could new volatility arise from?
Well, on top of disappointment from the vaccination, you have a lot of different risks that question marks. First of all, the fiscal cliff. What we call the fiscal cliff is the fact that in 2021, the governments won't be able to spend as much as they did in 2020. How is the economy going to react to that? The second thing is inflation. If we do get a recovery, inflation might come back as well. And we know that fixed income markets do not like inflation because that would mean yields need to go higher. How will market react to that? And finally, we forgot that there are still high geopolitical tensions in the world. Brexit is behind us, it's done and dusted. But for example, Mr. Biden's administration will not be able to go back friendly with China. They will keep the pressure on China. How will it impact the market? That's another risk that we need to be aware of.
So in this situation, how can investors deal with this potential volatility?
Well, there's on top of having a open-minded and dynamic style, go in and out when you think that market is overheated or undervalued, the most important thing is to remind yourself of the lessons of 2020. Low yield, do not hedge yourself. If you buy a low yielding currencies, it won't protect you against stress and volatility. It won't give you an income. And if inflation reappears, the performance of that securities will be low. So we've got two main principles. Favor big yield, because big yields, A, gives you an income, B, is less sensitive to interest rates or inflation, and 3, that yield is a sort of cushion. If you've got a recession or stress in the market, at least that yield you get paid will give you a little bit of protection. The second principle is to massively diversify. Don't focus only on what type of asset you like. Go everywhere, investment grade, high yield, US, Europe, emerging markets, and also currencies. They can give you a good adjusted return performance in a low yielding environment.
From this point of view, which are, in your view, the most promising asset classes here in Europe?
Well, in Europe, the first one that is obvious, that still gives you a decent yield and is also protected by the central bank, ECB, are the financials, banks, and insurance, especially the subs. It's a sector that is offering good yield, that is undervalued. The fundamentals of this institution is very good, and they're also, like I said, protected by the central bank. So invest in financials in Europe at the moment, it's a good bet. Further down the line, there's also other sectors that come to mind who are still depressed. The retail industry, the tourism industry, the restoration industry, hotels and so on. If you find names that are still undervalued, once the economy reopens, they will be okay. So you should also start to, later down the year, once vaccination program is going through, maybe that will be a good opportunity as well.
Coming to another aspect, FX. What is the role of FX in the future for fixed income investors?
That's a very good question, because foreign exchange is embarking on a new role. Because previously, when you were doubting the management of an economy or its productivity, you were selling the bonds or expecting a higher yield to take the risk on that economy. Now that all the central banks are rigging the interest rates at zero, Japan, UK, Europe, even US, you cannot express your views using the bond market. The only thing that's still allowed to move, and it has moved already this year, is our currencies. So US dollar will be a good indicator of how well the new administration is doing, and if the recovery in the US is a good point to start your investment. And US dollar is a good indication. So currencies can express your views you have on different economies. The other thing is that they can reduce the risk of investment. When you have stress, usually currencies offer good ways to hedge your bets a little bit. Swiss francs is a very good example in that point.
That sounds very interesting. Thank you very much for these observations. All the best in 2021.
Thank you, and you.